Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners and staff, and welcome to the City of Paterson special meeting for the Planning Board of Monday, March 7th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. via webinar session. Chairman Eugene, you may proceed.
Good evening, commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Good evening, commissioners. Notice was sent to the Open Public Meeting Act addressing the effect of coronavirus measures on the next public meeting, consistent with the coronavirus-related restriction executed order number 107 given on Saturday, March 21st, 2020 by Governor Philip T. Murphy. Planning Board of the City of Paterson will not conduct in-person participation of the public at all future meetings until further notice. However, public participation will be available by means of communication equipment pursuant to NJSA 10-4-8 commencing on April 15, 2020. Though there may be potentially a practical need for a limited number of administrative, technical, or other city personnel to be present in or near the council chambers, third floor City Hall, 155 Market Street, Paterson, New Jersey. In-person participation of the public is prohibited. Nevertheless, for reasons of compliance with the said Executive Order number 107, public participation will be available by calling 1-973-321-1579, meeting ID number 711-680-001. Planning Board special meeting of Monday, March 7th at 6:30 p.m. on the date and time that meeting is scheduled to commence. The public may also participate in the meeting by addressing the website of the City of Paterson at www.patersonnj.gov and following the mail link for the meeting www.patersonnj.gov/planningboard. On Wednesday, we have just one application we're going to hear this evening of the special meeting, which is 217-297 Getty Avenue, Redevelopment, block number 6701, lot number 2. I would request Mr. Deutsch to continue the rest because I do not have any file in my hand as now.
Before you continue, Chairman Udine.
Yes, I need attendance, I'm sorry.
I'd like to read the opening statement and call the roll. Is that okay?
Yes, please. Yes, I missed that. It's my
Okay,
sort of my
that's
fault
fine.
here.
That is just fine. He hereby states that all the provisions of the State of New Jersey Public Meeting Law have been fully and completely met, that the notice of provisions required have been properly posted in the Planning Board office with the City of Paterson clerk, that the public notice and advertisement have been published in the Herald News on February 23rd, 2022 in accordance with the law, and that the copies of such notice and public advertisements are on file in the Planning Board office, as it is also the agenda listing the applications to be taken up by the Planning Board this evening. The procedure tonight will be in accordance with the rules, regulations, and bylaws as determined by the Planning Board and its office in the municipal complex in the City of Paterson. I will now call the roll. Commissioners, Commissioner Ahmed is absent. Commissioner Cleaves.
I'm present.
Thank you. Commissioner Fisher is absent. Commissioner Iranzo.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Santana.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Amar.
Present.
Commissioner Roman is absent. Commissioner Figueroa.
Present.
Councilman Kalik is absent. Chairwoman Northrop is absent this evening. Commissioner Udine will be our chair. Are you present, sir? Thank you.
Thank you.
And also we'll read into the record, the applicant proposes to demolish the existing approximately 733,000 square foot warehouse building and construct a new one-story warehouse building of approximately 365,800 square feet, along with associated site improvements, including 53 loading docks, office space, and trailer parking. Waiver request to exceed the established build-up lines at 0 to 5 feet from the property lines is the design standard, and the applicant proposes setbacks of 18.5 feet and 142 feet from Getty Avenue and Thomas Street. A fence height of 4.75 feet is proposed, whereas a height of 3 feet is permitted. A lighting intensity of 1.1 foot candles at the property line is proposed, whereas a maximum lighting intensity of 0.1 foot candles is permitted at the property lines. And the applicant requests a variance to permit an impervious lot coverage of 88.8%, whereas the maximum permitted coverage is 70%. The site has an area of approximately 16.92 acres, 736,136 square feet, and is located within the industrial transition IT district of the Area 11 Rehabilitation Plan. This requires site plan approval and bulk variances. This is your agenda this evening, commissioners and staff. You may proceed, Chairman Udine.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you so very much for covering my part. I'm going to move to Mr. Deutsch for the full review. Yes.
Floor 297 Getty LLC is owned 99.5% by GSBT Holdings LLC, 25 West 39th Street, New York, New York 10018. The applicant has advised that GSBT 2011 Family Trust is not a corporation or partnership, and its beneficiaries not owners, and is not covered by the ownership disclosure requirements in NJSA 40:55D-48.1 and 48.2. Property taxes and sewer charges are current. Alan Bodiger, licensed surveyor of Clearpoint Services, has prepared a one-page land title survey dated October 21st, 2021. The survey also indicated a multi-story masonry and metal building exists on the parcel. Property is located at the northeast intersection of Getty Avenue and Thomas Street and encompasses 16.92 acres. It is one of the largest privately owned parcels in the city. Previous owners of this parcel include the Continental Can Company, a manufacturer of tin cans. The building appears on the 1950s Paterson Sanborn maps, and evidence suggests it was used during the 1940s for manufacturing materials for the Allied war effort. A precise date of construction has not been determined. Sometime after Continental Can Company, which was bought by American Can Company, stopped manufacturing in Paterson, the building was sold and was internally subdivided for new tenant uses. From 1983 to 1998, various applicants applied to both the Paterson Planning Board and Board of Adjustment for occupancies in the building. Prior to the present application, a previous application at this location was heard and approved by the Planning Board on October 19, 2011. Previous uses of the building included wholesale and storage uses. The applicant proposed to expand these uses to include office and retail uses. The building was to be divided into additional tenant spaces and for new indoor parking. The previous application obtained conditional approval but a final approval was not obtained. The IT Industrial Transition District of the Area 11 Rehabilitation Plan recognizes that many older industrial buildings in this district are underutilized, and as such, additional non-industrial uses are permitted in the district. These new permitted uses include warehouses, manufacturing facilities, and health and medical facilities. Langen Engineering has prepared a 21-page site plan dated November 16, 2021. Drawing G1001 is the cover sheet and includes the tax map, a location map, the zoning map, and the 200-foot property owners list. Drawing CD101 is the demolition plan. All elements of the existing warehouse buildings are to be removed, including vertical walls, the concrete slab, and foundation elements. Drawing CS101 is the site plan. The applicant proposes a 365,800 square foot footprint with a 355,580 square foot warehouse space with 10,220 square feet of office space, 355 vehicular parking spaces, 53 loading docks, and 53 trailer parking spaces. One access driveway is proposed in Getty Avenue opposite Park Street, and two access driveways are located on Thomas Street. On February 25, 2022, the applicant provided a revised drawing of CS101 revised to February 8, 2022. The revised plan is based on comments received from the County of Passaic Planning Board. The County Planning Board reviewed this proposal at a public hearing held on February 24, 2022 and granted conditional approval. The county has requested that the applicant widen the Getty Avenue curb radius on the exiting drive from 40 feet to 45 feet and to restrict truck use of the driveway to vehicular exiting traffic only. The county planning board approval included the grant of design waivers to permit trucks to exit but not enter at the proposed Getty Avenue driveway. Passaic County has also requested additional information as it pertains to the number of truck trips to be generated. Specifically, additional information on the exact nature of the proposed operations of these particular warehousing operations, i.e. transload, short-term storage, cold storage, fulfillment center, or parcel hub. The applicant shall advise the planning board of same. Vehicular parking for 355 automobiles is located at the front of the building with driveways leading to Getty Avenue and Thomas Street. Truck parking is located at the rear of the building with access to Thomas Street. Drawing CS501 is the site details including ADA, accessible ramp, traffic signage, guardrail, and concrete sidewalk. Drawing CS502 is also site details and includes county ADA curb ramps, crosswalk striping, concrete pavement section, asphalt pavement section, and notes. Drawing CP101 is the truck circulation plan. Drawing CP102 is the fire truck circulation plan. Drawing CG101 is the grading plan. Drawing CG102 is the drainage plan. Drawing CG401 is the partial and large grading plan. Drawing CG402 is the driveway profiles plan. Drawing CG501 and CG502 are the drainage details plan. Drawing CU101 is the utility plan, and drawing CU501 are the utility details. Drawing CE101 is the soil, erosion, and sediment control plan, and drawing CE501 is the soil erosion and sediment control notes and details plan. Drawing LP101 is the landscape plan, and drawing LP501 is the landscape notes and details plan. Drawing LL101 is the lighting plan, and drawing LL501 is the lighting notes and details. Weir Malcolm Company has provided a 3-page plan. Sheet A2 is the floor plan. The plan indicates 2 office spaces of 5,770 square feet each, 11,544 square feet that are to be located at the east, and northwest corners of the building. 2 utility rooms are located at the southeast corner of the building. The 53 loading docks are located on the south side of the building. The applicant shall provide details about the interior of the building at the public hearing. Sheet A4.1 indicates the front of the building as viewed from Getty Avenue and from Thomas Street. Sheet A4.2 indicates the rear of the building and the western elevation of the building. The architect shall review pages 24 through 34 of the Area 11 Neighborhood Redevelopment Plan design standards and inform the commissioners at the public hearing how the proposed architecture of the building meets the facade and roof requirements of the plan. The applicant has provided a parking breakdown as follows. The minimum number of parking spaces required for warehouse use is 1 space per employee during the maximum shift and 1 space for each enterprise vehicle. As the minimum number of parking spaces required for office use is 1 space for each 1,000 square feet of office floor area, and as 11,544 square feet of office area is indicated, the proposed office use requires 12 parking spaces. For warehouse use, the applicant has provided an assumed number of 10 enterprise vehicles being in use, which shall require 10 parking spaces. The applicant has provided a total proposed number of vehicular parking spaces as being indicated as 355 off-street parking spaces. The applicant also states that the maximum number of employees during the maximum shift shall be assumed to be less than or equal to 304 employees. Based on the above totals of 10 parking spaces for the business use, 12 parking spaces for office use, and 304 employees on the maximum shift, 326 off-street parking spaces are required and 355 off-street parking spaces are provided. The applicant requests new variances for the following. Waiver requests to exceed the established build-to line 0 to 5 feet from the front property line is a design standard, and the applicant proposed setbacks of 18.5 feet from Thomas Street and 119 feet from Getty Avenue. A retaining wall height of 4.7 feet is proposed and a fence height of 4 feet is proposed, whereas a height of 3 feet for a wall or fence is permitted. An existing fence is 6 feet high. A lighting intensity of 1.1 foot candles is permitted at the property line is proposed, whereas maximum lighting intensity of 0.1 foot candles is permitted at the property lines. And the applicant requests a variance to permit an impervious lot coverage of 88.8%, whereas the maximum permitted coverage is 70%. Existing impervious coverage is 98.6%. The zoning table in the site plan shall be revised to reflect the accurate setback from Getty Avenue of 119 feet, not 142 feet as is shown on the plan dimension. Vehicular parking spaces are to measure 9 feet by 18 feet. The minimum driveway aisle width proposed is 24 feet. The maximum parking setback from property lines is proposed to be 10 feet. The number of loading berths proposed is 53. The size of the loading berths proposed are 13.5 feet by 60 feet. The above exceed the minimum required for each category listed above. The applicant estimates hours of 8 o'clock a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. 7 days per week, with the greatest use period to be from 8 o'clock a.m. to 9 o'clock a.m. and from 5 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. The applicant advises that these hours of operation are estimates and that the building tenants may need to adjust these hours. Maximum parking setback from property lines is. Although the redevelopment plan does not limit hours of operation, the planning board can require the applicant to limit the days and hours of operation. The applicant also advises that the number of expected users is dependent upon whether the proposed building is to be occupied by 1 or 2 tenants. The expected number of employees is between 200 and 250 persons. It shall be the responsibility of the applicant and/or the preparer of the plan to obtain a letter from the city engineer indicating the plans have been satisfactorily reviewed prior to plans being released to construction official. All traffic control devices, including pavement markings, signs, and bollards, be placed as indicated on the above referenced plans. The applicant shall confer with the city traffic engineer to implement any additional off-site improvements deemed necessary. Surrounding land use. This proposal is located in the railway section of the city. The area is a mixture of light industrial, commercial, and residential uses. The applicant estimates the cost of this proposal at approximately $35 million. In a letter dated February 22nd, 2022, and signed by Kevin Slavin, President and CEO of St. Joseph's Health, Mr. Slavin expresses support for the application, believes that this project is consistent with the redevelopment plan's goals and objectives, and is in full support of this project. As your staff review for this proposal, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Who is representing this application?
Hi, Adam Fiala from Sills Cummins & Gross. We're the attorneys for Thor 297 Getty Avenue LLC, the applicant this evening.
And Mr. Parala, and how many witnesses do you have in this evening?
Doing well, thank you. We have 5 witnesses tonight.
So would you want to start first?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll have a brief intro and then I'll introduce our first applicant, or our first witness.
Alright,
So
sounds good.
first,
We'll do.
just thank you to everybody for having a special meeting to discuss this exciting project. Mr. Deutsch had a very good background, so I don't want to get too much into the site location. It's in Area 11 Neighborhood Redevelopment Plan within the IT Industrial Transition District. The notices were sent to all interested parties and published in both the Herald News and the Bergen Record at least 10 days in advance, the 24th and 25th, and the affidavit of proof of service was submitted. As Mr. Deutsch explained, this is an application for preliminary and final major site plan approval, a C variance, and design waivers exemptions to demolish the existing approximately 733,000 square foot warehouse building and construct a new Class A, approximately 365,800 square feet of warehouse and accessory office space and car and truck parking spaces, loading spaces, related site improvements. As far as Mr. Deutsch's staff review, we agree to comply and provide the requested testimony in there. And it was noted how we received a conditional approval from the Passaic County Planning Board dated February 24th, which the board should have a copy of. And we also received a letter of support from St. Joseph's Health. They are the master redeveloper of the larger redevelopment area, and the board should have a copy of that too. And the applicant is in the process of pursuing being designated the redeveloper of this specific property and entering into a redevelopment agreement with the city. So at this time, we have 5 witnesses. We have a representative of the applicant, so the board can hear a little bit of a background about Thor and the parent company Thor Equities. And we have an engineer, an architect, traffic engineer, and a professional planner. It sounds like a lot, but we'll try to be nice and quick for everybody. So at this time, I'd like to call Peter McAnee from Thor Equities. Sorry, Peter, if I messed up your last name.
No, it's no problem at all, McAnee. Good to see
Can you
you.
please raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Can you please say your full name and please spell your last?
Peter McAnee, Senior Vice President with Thor Equities, McEneaney.
Thank you.
And Mr. McAnee, can you just give the board a brief background on Thor Equities, the parent company, and also state your role there?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Senior Vice President of Development and Construction, so I oversee all of our development and construction activities, both in the Northeast, but also around the country. We're a New York-based developer, but we're active both in New Jersey, the Northeast, and around the country with a number of similar industrial-type projects, most of which we develop on spec, which means obviously before we have tenants in place. We're currently under construction with a large project in the Atlanta market. We have another project underway in the Chicago market, and we just acquired something in the Newark area. So we're pretty active all over the country, just doing a
Thank
few
you,
projects.
Thank you, Mr. Peter, and I accept Mr. Peter as an expert.
Thank you. And if you can just, Peter, just explain a little bit about Thor Equity's industrial developments, and then a little, just very briefly, about the some industrial or some operational issues for this project specifically.
Yes, I mean, generally, so like I was just saying, we develop these projects on spec, right? So before we have tenants in place, and this is similar to what we're planning to do for our Paterson project. You know, we, at this moment, right, we don't have a tenant in mind. We've set up the building, as you guys can see from the design, right, where it's flexible. It could be one user, it could be two users. It wouldn't be more than that, most likely, but, you know, we anticipate potentially the two potential users. And those could range in usage from warehousing, logistics, you know, some potential, maybe some light manufacturing potential, but all similar uses to what were being discussed, you know, during the previous testimony.
And the estimated number of employees, it'll be based on the tenant, but we're looking at about 200 to 250. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends on how we split up the building into one or two, but that would be a fair estimate for a building that's 365,000 square feet.
So that's all the questions I have for this witness. We just wanted to give the board a brief background on the applicant and afford the board an opportunity to ask questions. I don't know if the board wants to go after a few different witnesses or after every witness. I leave it up to the board's discretion.
Yes, Mr. Farrell, I'm going to go with the next witness, and then I'll let the board and the public ask question.
Awesome, thank you. So at this time, I'd like to call the site engineer, John Cote from Langen Engineering.
Good evening.
Please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Say your full name for the record, please.
It's John Cote. The last name is spelled C-O-T-E.
And Mr. Cote, can you give the board briefly describe your educational background and confirm you're a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey?
Sure. My educational background is a Bachelor of Engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology. I am licensed in New Jersey. I work for Langen Engineering and Environmental Services, and I have testified before this board on previous applications in Paterson.
Thank you, Mr. Code, and I accept Mr. Code as an professional expert.
Thank you. So, Mr. Cote, can you please describe the site and the surrounding area?
Sure. So I'll share my screen with the first exhibit. And this exhibit,
We'll mark the exhibits as we go, but I believe every exhibit we're presenting tonight has already been submitted to the board.
so I'm going to turn to the screen while I talk about the particular drawing. So this drawing that's up on the screen we'll refer to as Exhibit A1, and it's entitled Existing Aerial Plan. It's drawing number CP04, and it's dated March 3rd, 2022. The overall plan depicts the area of the site showing the existing warehouse, the 733,000 square foot buildings that's going to be demolished. The site is occupied predominantly by the main building. There's a smaller building used to be referred to, I guess, as the powerhouse at the northwest corner. The property, the 16.92 acre property, is bound on the south by Getty Ave, on the southwest by Getty Ave, on the southeast by Thomas Street, on the northeast by the railroad tracks, and then on the northwest by an existing commercial property. And Madison Ave is just adjacent to the commercial property, just to the north of our site. The site's about 2,000 feet away from the existing Route 80, exit 58, Madison Ave exit. And the site fronts on both Getty and Thomas.
Thank you. And what is being proposed here? Can you describe it from an engineering perspective?
Sure. The proposal is to demolish all the existing structures that are on site today. The site will be rebuilt with a new warehouse. The 365,800 square foot warehouse will be in place of the existing. I'm going to switch now to another drawing. I'm going to go to our site plan, drawing CS101, titled Site Plan, and the date last revised February 8th, 2022. So this plan depicts the new proposed layout of the 365,000 square foot warehouse. There's proposed 53 trailer loading dock spaces along the north face of the building. There's 53 trailer parking spaces along the north face of the property. On the south side of the property, there's 355 parking spaces proposed. Of the 355 parking spaces, there are 14 electric vehicle charging stations that will be provided and 8 ADA compliant spaces. The site is designed to allow for circulation coming in off of West Railroad Ave to run clockwise into the site and around the site to exit out onto an entrance drive on Getty, existing driveway on Getty Ave. The employee parking will be allowed access both from Thomas Street as well as off of the Getty Ave entrance. In particular, through our meetings with the county had asked that we modify the driveway for the purpose of the truck movements to restrict this to an exit-only scenario for the trucks. Passenger vehicles will still be able to use this as an entrance drive to access the employee parking. This supports the counterclockwise rotation of the truck drivers pulling in, and that is an industry standard in terms of the way the truck drivers access the loading docks and back their vehicles into the various spaces. In addition to the...
Oh, I'm sorry, continue.
No, I was just gonna, I'll move into the next plan if you'd like to go a little
Yes,
bit more of the, so moving into the next plan is the truck circulation plan. And that's the WB-67 truck circulation plan, drawing CP 101, last revised February 1st, 2022.
And we'll, even though they were submitted to the board, that site plan sheet and this truck circulation plan, we'll just mark them as exhibits A2 and then A3.
Sure. So I'll just put a quick, okay, A2 and A3. So looking at this plan, just to illustrate what I was describing a moment ago, this illustrates the truck maneuvers coming in from West Railroad Avenue, entering the site, allowing them to maneuver in a clockwise fashion. Illustrate the maneuvering the way the tractor trailers would back into a stall, knowing that other stalls may be occupied. And that's the nature of the way the business operates in terms of supporting the way the truck drivers like to back into stalls. The site itself, upon exit, will allow Getty Ave to be accessed for a route to Madison Ave for the northbound maneuver. This exit can also go southbound. And then additionally, we have provisions to allow Thomas Street to be accessed for an exit maneuver so that trucks looking to go southbound on Getty Ave can use the Thomas Street intersection with Getty. So looking at the overall maneuvers, what this does in this layout, and one of the most, I guess, the important items to point out is that all the truck loading docks are basically positioned at the north face of the building, and we eliminated all the truck loading docks along Thomas Street. Thomas Street will now be a landscaped street with sidewalk running up along it, as opposed to the loading docks that are out there today. In proposing this overall plan, we're proposing to reduce the impervious on the site, where we're bringing about approximately 1.4 acres of new landscaping to the site compared to its existing condition.
And to be clear, a variance is still needed because of it's a reduction of existing, but we're still over the requirement, correct?
Yeah, and I'm going to refer to that a little bit further in part of my testimony, but yes, the existing condition is 98.6% impervious, and we're going to be bringing that down to 88 apologies, that number off the top of my head.
No, you're right, 88.8.
0.8%, yeah. So going back to this drawing, so this illustrates the circulation of the site, and again, based on our interaction with the county, the changes we made to the original site plan, we submitted in the restriction of the exit only for trucks on the Getty Ave connection. So then that brings us to, I'll introduce the next plan. In the overall set of plans, we had the utility plan and the grading plan and the lighting plan and landscaping plan. So I'm going to refer to this set. Do you want to refer to the entire set as the next exhibit?
Yeah, we can present that as Exhibit A4, the entire set.
Okay. So then, looking at A4 as the exhibit, the first drawing from that set is the utility plan. Utility plan is drawing CU 101, dated November 16th, 2021. And the main reason for bringing this plan up is just to illustrate that we're providing our utilities predominantly from Thomas Street, providing a looping water main through the site. Our connections for both sanitary and our storm sewer will connect out to Thomas as well. We have separated on-site our sanitary and our storm, but they both go into the combined system that exists on Thomas Street today. As a result of this plan, with reduction in impervious, we're actually reducing the flows off-site into that system, and we're also treating the water under our stormwater approach, and I'll describe that in a moment, to improve the off-site flows. So utility-wise, the other piece of this puzzle is because we're providing EV parking spaces along the front, we're going to also bring power in from the front to service those EV parking spaces. The next plan that I'll illustrate is the grading plan. Just to give a quick couple of notes on that. Grading plan is drawing CG 101. It's dated November 16, 2021. And my reason for bringing up the grading plan is to discuss one of the technical aspects of the variance we're asking for with respect to the wall height for the property. So for everyone's perspective, Getty Ave is basically where it is today, runs more or less from an elevation of approximately 131 at the northwest end, goes to a high point of 134.7 at the midpoint, and then back down to approximately 129 at the southwest corner. Our site design is such that the parking field in the front will be recessed, similar to what if you were out there today and you were to look at the building, standing at the sidewalk. See that the building is set down below grade from Getty Ave. We're utilizing that change in grade to accomplish two things. One is to marry up the elevations of the parking field with the building, but also allows us to use that recessed parking field to help screen the parking as well. So the resultant wall height of 4.75 feet, that's the subject of the variance, is a result of that specific design, allowing us to recess the parking area. In addition, on top of the wall, for fall protection, we provide a 4-foot high fence. That fence is another variance request where height of 3 feet is permitted. We're asking for a variance for 4 feet. That's with respect to the grading plan. The building itself will also be at an elevation lower than Getty Ave, so that'll help reduce its appearance to Getty Ave in terms of size, coming down in grade approximately anywhere from 5 to 7 feet below where Getty Ave is today. The next plan I'll bring up is the landscaping plan. So the landscaping plan is drawing LP 101. It's dated November 16th, 2021. And just take a moment for it to come in here, content. So the landscaping plan has quite an extensive amount of landscaping for various purposes. We're providing a overall shade tree planting along both right-of-ways for Getty Ave and for Thomas. There are no trees on Thomas Street today, as an example. We're providing a combination of both shade tree and ornamental trees on portions of the site. The shade trees are basically varying along Getty Ave, and we have a series of different types, providing red maples, honey locusts, sweet gum, London plane trees, oak, and Japanese tree lilac to provide those shade trees. Thomas will have red maples running down the length of that. There's also plantings within the parking field, within all the landscape islands, to give a green space within the landscape area itself, as well as foundation plantings that run along the perimeter of the building throughout. Along the frontage as well, within the trees of the streetscape, we also have a combination of evergreen shrubs and deciduous shrubs a variety of them running throughout, that'll help improve the landscape substantially there for what you see out there today. That the landscaping also goes into part of our stormwater design. Pointing out two areas at the rear of the site, this northeast corner of the site, we have a bioretention, and at the northwest corner of the site, a second bioretention basin. The bioretention basins are part of our water quality treatments for our stormwater system, and they act along with additional green infrastructure treatment systems that we have put throughout the property to comply with New Jersey DEP's current stormwater regulations, so that we meet the stormwater regulations with respect to water quality and quantity for the purpose of this project. And also I'll point out that I'm going to go back to the one exhibit that we had for the site plan for a second here. See if it's highlighted on here. Just see if it's highlighted. Another water quality treatment, which you may see happening in the business now and on other applications, is that we're going to utilize porous pavement in the parking spaces that are along the front here. That porous pavement is a DEP recommended measure to provide water quality treatment for the water's runoff from the actual pavement areas. So the combination of the porous pavement, the bioretention basins at the rear of the site, and the green infrastructure manufacturing treatment systems all are utilized to meet the regulation that the DEP put into effect last March 2021. Then I'm going to now go to the lighting plan. Lighting plan is drawing LL 101, dated November 16, 2021. And the lighting plan illustrates the combination of all of our different lighting fixture types to achieve the lighting pattern throughout the site, which includes both poles through the parking field, wall-mounted fixtures along the building, pedestrian level lights in approximation to both the office space locations, and additional fixture types along the back for the trailer storage areas. Request for the waiver with respect to the 1.1 foot candles occurs along the location at the adjacent to the entrance to the office area, to the entrance near the on the southwest end, and at the northwest end office areas, in addition along the sidewalk of Thomas Street. And part of the overall request with respect to this variance is that we're trying to provide a level of lighting here that accomplishes, both appropriate lighting for the use, but also security lighting, so that in areas along Thomas, as an example, if somebody wants to traverse that sidewalk, it'll be adequately lit for that. Our overall lighting, fades out as it gets into the public right of way. So the street level lighting adjacent to the site fades down to the 0.1, 0.2, or 0.3 as shown on our plans throughout the stretch of the public right of ways where the lighting fades, tapers down. So the purpose of that 1.1 foot candles along the property line is associated with both the office areas and the sidewalk for safety and security. So the next plan I'm going to show is we've taken, this is an exhibit that was provided entitled Plan Rendering. Then this will be now exhibit A-, I believe.
I believe we're up to five, counting the set of plans as one exhibit.
Okay. So this drawing illustrates graphically where the green space is being provided on the site, both the bioretention basins that I referred to earlier, plus the new streetscape that's going to be brought onto Thomas Street, where the old loading dock facilities used to be, as well as our landscaping along the whole frontage within the parking fields. And the idea behind this is to provide something that's aesthetically pleasing, in proximity to the street frontage, but also inbound to the site, with the combination of the stormwater features that serve to provide a green approach to the dealing with the stormwater runoff from the site. So those are the primary. I can go through and talk about a few other items that are listed for the purpose of our variances. where,
If you want to just, I think you hit on everything except if you want to mention the build to line.
yeah, exactly.
Design waiver.
Come back to that, yeah. So the build to line is currently 0 to 5 feet in the ordinance. And what we're doing, what I described earlier about being able to recess this parking, drop the building back, and make this parking level with the building, provides a separation of this entire parking activity here from the truck service areas. Generally in warehouse development, the goal is to have these activities in the parking fields not interact with the loading facilities. So from a setback, the 119 feet from Getty Ave serves that purpose to provide the parking field. And with respect to removing all of the loading facilities that were previously along Thomas Street, we positioned our building in proximity to that, a little bit less than what the previous building jutted out to. And that's where we got our 18.5. But that 18.5 really serves the purpose to provide a landscape area between the curb and the building. Otherwise, you'd have the appearance of what you see today, a building either fronting directly on the Getty Ave right away, or only a distance of 0 to 5 feet. So we believe this provides a much more aesthetic and appealing experience walking down Getty Ave and Thomas, and for the residents that are adjacent as well. So that we believe that setback serves that purpose as well.
Thank you, Mr. Cote. So at this time, we don't have any further questions for this witness. Mr. Chairman, do you want us to move on to our architect now?
Mr. Farrella, who are the next 3 witnesses? If you can give us.
It would be the architect, then the traffic engineer, and then we're ending with the planner.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to let the public and commissioners to ask questions to these 2 witnesses, and then I'll go with next 3.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. If any public, I'm going to go to public portion first. If any public want to have any question to any of these witnesses, you may call at 973-321-1579. Again, 973-321-1579. Meeting ID number 711-680-001. Madam Secretary, as of now, is there any caller on the line? Madam Secretary. Madam Secretary, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
All right, Madam Secretary. As of now, we are on public session as of now. Is there any caller on the line that you can take question?
You can continue with the commissioners and I will let you know if we have any, but right now we do not.
All right, sounds great. Thank you. Commissioners, if you have any question to any of these witnesses, to our first witness, Mr. Peter, and the second witness, Mr. Code, if you have any question to them, please state your name and email. Proceed with the question.
This is Commissioner Amar.
Yes, Commissioner Amar.
I just want to know if I understood correctly. It says that the only exit will be from Getty Avenue, the truck exit.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Cote, if you can explain the truck entrance and 2 exits, and then the car entrance and exit also, just for completeness.
Sure. For the circulation of the site, trucks can enter in from West Railroad Ave. They can park in the various loading facilities. They can leave if they're heading towards Madison Ave, out the north end of the site, in what was referred to as an exit-only driveway on Getty Ave. Thomas Street entrance driveway allows an exit maneuver as well, so trucks that want to go southbound on Getty Ave don't have to circulate in front of the building and across all those additional streets to go in that direction. So it's more efficient to have them circulate out Thomas and then out Getty, depending on their destination.
And we have a traffic engineer who will talk about what we believe the truck route for most trucks will be.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. I think Mr. Code. Commissioner Moore, do you have any other question?
No, that was the only part that I missed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioner?
Thank you, Chairman. This is Commissioner Figueroa.
Hi, Commissioner Figueroa. Yes, proceed with your question.
I do appreciate you stopping at this point because it is a lot of information to disseminate. So I really do appreciate that because it's a lot. And some of the terminology I'm not all that familiar with. So, I actually had to look up the meaning of foot candles. I know it's a term that's used commonly to measure units of light intensity per square foot surface or something like that. But in any event, I agree that setback is ideal, especially on the Thomas Street side. I have a question as far as the employee parking area, the ingress and the egress for that. If you could please,
Sure.
Mr. Cody, if you could please elaborate on that.
Sure. So the access to the overall parking field for the employees is either through the entrance off of Thomas Street, which is a entrance in and an entrance out. And by the way, Thomas Street is a one-way going south or west, if you want to call southwest to Getty Ave. And then on the northwest corner, the employee parking can come out, can enter or exit the Getty Ave entrance. The county was the one who requested that this be an exit only for trucks, but they're allowing employee vehicles to be able to enter this and exit this way as well. So cars can enter or exit through the driveway at the northwest corner on the gateway or onto Thomas Street.
And I have my follow-up question would be as far as the electrical charging areas. Are those for the trucks? Are those for the employee vehicles? What are they for?
Employee
Who do they
vehicles.
serve?
Yeah, they're for employee vehicles.
I think that's great with gas the way it is.
Yeah, yes, right, yes, more poignant today than any of that, right, exactly.
Yeah.
But those are provided up along the frontage of the site, along the adjacent to the ADA spaces that are by this office area on the north side.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm glad you covered that because I always ask about the ADA. All right, thank you. That was it for me.
Commissioner Figueroa, no more question? Any other commissioner?
This is Commissioner Santana.
Hey, Commissioner Santana, yes, proceed with your question.
Okay, I actually have some concern. I noticed that the access on Gary is right on Park Street, right?
It's opposite Park Street today. Yeah, the existing entrance drive that's there today is in the same location, but slightly shifted to the north, like creating an offset intersection.
Yeah, the only difference is like you're gonna have a more volume of trucks coming out in this direction, and you're only like 300 feet away from Madison Avenue, which is we have a traffic light then, and traffic, I know, get really rough there. So I'm wondering whether having traffic line in that section may be something that needed, because you have truck coming to, that's north and south, right?
And Commissioner Santana, that was actually that was something that was discussed with the county because they initially had those exact concerns. Mr. Cote, if you can explain the increase in safety by shifting the driveway and also the extra steps that we took during the course of the county application to show the safety near the intersection.
Sure, then I'm gonna bring up one more exhibit that was brought up, that was sent to the city. This exhibit's an aerial overlay. It's referred to as CP 103, drawing number CP 103.
And it's exhibit A6.
A6. And A6 is the same WB 67 circulation plan, but with an aerial background. So if you've seen the site today, there's an existing driveway that's right here. And that driveway, being where it is, doesn't allow for trucks to be able to make the turn and get out to Madison without crossing over into oncoming traffic. In addition, those loading bays that are that this particular drive aisle services today, the loading bays are in the back on the existing condition you see in this overlay. This is the back loading area for the existing facility. So they traverse this area in between these buildings and down between the existing building down to Getty Avenue. by backing into here. So those trucks are actually stopping on Getty Ave and backing in to this driveway, making their way all the way back to those loading back to the area. We, obviously, from a design point of view, would not support any vehicles backing in off of a major road like Getty Ave. To your point about the traffic safety, that creates numerous conditions that we would be concerned with. So we eliminated that in terms of trucks having to either back into there. For that matter, when we do exit, the county reviewed our plan, and one of the things they asked us to do was to widen this curve here. This is the curve return on the exiting driveway, so that we made it a wider curve and allows the trucks to exit without having to cross over into oncoming traffic. And this, what we did for the county, and we provided to the city under separate cover, was we actually did a traffic count out here. We observed the actual traffic in terms of when traffic builds up at Madison Ave and when there are gaps. And there are gaps, plenty of gaps to allow trucks to exit here with a full maneuver and get to Madison Ave and be able to make the right turn. Because we had the same concern you had, and the county brought it up as well. So we addressed that with a combination of shifting our driveway over to make the full maneuver to allow them to stay out of the oncoming traffic, which we found would jam traffic up as an example. That gets a clean maneuver out to the street. And also, for Park Street, it provides better sight to see where cars are coming from, or going to, in this case, cars going into Park Street, for the maneuver out. So that rendered this driveway much safer significantly safer than what's out there today.
And we also have a traffic engineer who will just very briefly discuss how, while this is a new application, because of the reduction in square footage, it's a fewer amount of trucks, or a lesser amount of trucks than what could be done using the property now if this were to be rehabilitated and kept the same square footage.
Yeah, we're taking the square footage down from 733,000 to 365,800. So that's cutting it, practically in half from what's out there today.
Commissioner Liganzo.
Sorry, I have one more quick question.
Yes, Commissioner Leonzo, you should please wait, let Commissioner
I'll
Santana.
probably.
Yes, Commissioner Santana.
I'm looking at the site, and where's gonna be the garbage disposal for this, warehouse? And I'm wondering whether it's gonna be used, the city service, or it's gonna be a private company usually picking up garbage in this location.
Yeah, my understanding is there'll be a private hauler property. Typically, what they'll do for the trash is they'll utilize a existing stall or a location where they'll have that material brought out and for pickup purposes on the site. So that allows it for delivery day or pickup day, hauling the material away.
And there's enough loading spaces to be able to do that, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and that's on the as-needed activity as to how they would haul that away. So there won't be an exterior trash enclosure. It'll be maintained, and if for any reason, we have locations if we need to provide one, if there's any reason to add it, we could add it at any point in time. There's enough space on the site to provide that.
I just bring it out because I want to make sure this recycling, I know they use a lot of boxes and plastic, so I would like to see something that they have space for recycling and, they don't have an excuse not to do it. And also, you're gonna have offices, right? So I'm just concerned, whether you should have some space available for garbage to pick up, because it's a warehouse, the amount of garbage that they're gonna produce is more compared to other companies, I guess.
Yeah, we have an opportunity in any of these areas that are adjacent to the loading docks. If the board would like, I can add a trash enclosure for that purpose, to serve that, to have a physical location outside, or talk to the client in this particular case about how they want to manage it inside the building as well.
And one more question, and that's the last one. So the trucks, they're not gonna have access to employees parking space designated, right? There's not gonna be circulating trucks in that section of.
No, correct. No trucks circulate through the employee parking area. Yeah, they're all outbound of that parking area.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Santana. Thank you, Mr. Cote. Commissioner Leonzo, yes.
I wanted to hear from the traffic planner because it's a really concern when the people come out from school. It's gonna be a lot of traffic there with those trucks. So that's my real concern.
Commissioner Leonzo, as the attorney of the application, Mr. Fala mentioned that there is going to be traffic, there's going to be a witness who's going to talk about the traffic section as well. Right, Mr. Fala, am I wrong?
Yeah, I wanna hear about that, yes.
Alright, so let's wait, and if you have any question, you definitely can ask a question. Any other commissioner have any question to any of these witnesses? If not, there is on the public's, in a person, there is an interested party waiting to ask
Yes.
question. Madam Secretary, yes, you may,
Yes. Mr. John Burns, do you hear me? Can you press *6 on your phone to unmute yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Chairman Udine, you may proceed.
yes, Mr. Barnes, good evening. Sir, would you please state your name and your address?
My name is John Burns. I'm attorney from Mandelbaum Barrett. The address is 3 Dr. Farm Road, Suite 105, Roseland, New Jersey.
Mr. Akuliba, can he ask question?
I'm sorry, Chairman?
He is not from Paterson, if I hear him correctly.
Mr. Burns, who are you representing?
I'm representing a tenant on the property, Direct, Mattress Direct.
Okay, who is it again? I'm sorry, say the name of the tenant?
Mattress Direct.
Okay, where are they located?
In the 297 Getty building.
Okay, is there a building number or unit number, anything to designate it?
Hold on a second, please. Are you there?
Yeah, I hear it.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. It's a 217-297 Getty Avenue, Block 6701, Lot 2.
Okay, they are currently tenants of the property?
Yes.
Okay. All right, what questions do you have for either the Senior Vice President of Development or Mr. Gotay as the engineer?
I don't have any specific questions, only just an injection to put on the record. I'm not sure if I should do that at this time or can.
No, you don't have time to do that. Right now, we're just, we're entertaining questions from the commissioners and the public for each witness. But after the conclusion of the testimony, you can state whatever objections or statements you want to make on the record. You just have to hang tight for a little bit. All right, thank you.
Fine by me, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Alright, thank you, Mr. Burns. Yes, you can come up with your comments at the end. We're going to have some time for comments. But if you do have any question to any of these witnesses, you may ask. If not, then we have to wait. Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Yeah, that's fine waiting.
Alright, thank you. If any other commissioner, any question before we proceed with the next witness? I believe no. Mr. Fala, you may call your next witness.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to call Scott Daniel from Ware Malcolm, the applicant's architect.
Please raise your right hand. Where did you go? You swear affirm testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Say your full name for the record and spell it, please.
Scott Daniel, SCOTT, Daniel.
And Mr. Daniel, can you briefly describe your educational background and your license?
Yes, I have a Bachelor's of Architecture from New Jersey Institute of Technology. I am a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, practicing for over 30 years.
And your license is current?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you, Mr. Daniel, and I accept Mr. Daniel as a professional witness.
Thank you very much. Mr. Daniel, can you describe the project from an architectural perspective and share your screen when you're ready with the rendering that has been submitted to the board?
Yes, I can. Here, hopefully you can see my screen. This is the perspective rendering of the.
And just be clear, sorry, can you just state the plan? This is Exhibit A7, if you don't mind just describing what the plan is before we
the plan,
get
okay.
into the details.
Sure. Okay. Here's, as we discussed earlier with the engineer, this is the overall architectural plan of the building. Getty Avenue is on Plan South at this location, and as you can see, it is 365,702 square feet. We are proposing actually one office space with the option of another office space should they go from a single tenant to a multi-tenant. Just to describe a little bit of the architecture, the surrounding envelope walls will be of concrete. They'll be either precast or they'll be cast in place and built up on the site, depending on the availability. The internal structure will be a steel column and beam with open web joists for the roof. The typical bay depth will be 60 feet at what we call the speed bay, which is where the truck docks are. And then we go 50 feet in the vertical dimension and a typical width of 54 feet in the east-west dimension. The clear height will be 36 feet, and the overall height will be 44 feet. The roof will be consistent of a lightweight metal roof with fully insulated and a single-ply membrane on top. Now I'd like to move on to the elevations. This gives us the elevation that will be facing Getty Avenue. This is a full elevation at a smaller scale, and this is broken up from left to right. So we have the main entrance on the corners, and the elevation is broken up vertically to create a rhythm of more of a commercial office building than a your typical industrial buildings. Our architecture typically takes the industrial building and enhances it aesthetically so as to work with the neighborhood and the environment. And for your neighborhood, we took into account all of the aspects as much as we could to meet those requirements, looking at the vertical rhythm, breaking up the long elevation into different portions, so creating a texture and a more pleasing aesthetic for the pedestrians and the cars that go by.
And if you want to present the rendering now and show the board how this will look more like a traditional office building than a big box warehouse that most people are used to.
So what I
Exhibit A8.
Yeah, A8. What I originally was talking about, this major entrance on the corner is to enhance the pedestrian and the employee entry, create more of a commercial business environment for the building. We use a series of vertical panels to create more of a texture and a rhythm as it goes across. Double high glass in the entrance portion, a metal panel canopy to also give you a greater elegance at the entry. And again, you can see the rhythm as it runs down the facade. We also use a different height for the parapet to break up the top portion of the building to also give it more of a rhythm as it goes down.
And if you can just discuss very briefly the sustainability designs, even though this won't be LEED certified, the measures and designs and materials that were used.
Sure. As part and parcel of all our designs for industrial, we, even though it may not be a green certified building, we always take into account the energy that is being used for this building. So we meet or exceed the energy code for, this would be for New Jersey. So the panels will be fully insulated with continuous insulation as required by the building code. We'll use a minimum requirement for, or will exceed the minimum requirement for the roof insulation, and a low E insulated glass at all of the glazing locations.
And to be clear, there was a question in the staff review about compliance with the redevelopment plan's design standards. So is the applicant intending to meet all of those design standards?
Yes, we are. We will take into account all the aesthetic qualities that we can to make it pleasing according to the design standards for the designated area.
So that's all we have for this witness. If you want us to move to the traffic next and then ask questions, or ask questions now, whichever you prefer, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Perella, I'm gonna go with next two witnesses and then we'll go to the question and comment session.
Great. So at this time, I'd like to call Mr. Alan Lothian from Langen Engineering, our traffic engineering expert.
Hello?
Hi, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your full name for the record?
Alan Lothian, ALANLOTHIAN.
And can you describe your educational background and your licensing?
Okay, I'm an associate with Langen Engineering in our traffic group. I've been there about 24 years now. I have a bachelor's of science in civil engineering from Rutgers, a master's of science in transportation from NJIT. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, in good standing, and I've testified before dozens of boards throughout the state.
We request that Mr. Lothian be accepted as an expert in traffic engineering.
Yes, I do accept him as an expert. Thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. Lothian, can you testify about this site from a traffic perspective?
Okay, and as you said, Adam, I will try to be quick. Mr. Cote went through a lot of the details on the site circulation. It's rare that I get to talk about a project that's actually going to improve things so much. Just looking at the safety and the efficiency of the access points compared to what's out there today it's a huge difference. Right now, we're talking about a situation, as Mr. Cote pointed out, where along Getty Ave, if a truck is entering that northern side of the building,
they have to stop traffic, they have to back up into the loading docks, and that does disrupt traffic. It's not a safe condition, and we are eliminating that. And not only are we eliminating that particular movement, but we're eliminating the entry off of that access point, which takes the entry away from the Madison Avenue intersection, which actually helps a lot. All entry of trucks will be, as you've heard, will be off of Railway Avenue, and Thomas Street. That will take all that truck entering traffic and circulate it appropriately. The exiting can be split between the two access points. The eastern driveway on Thomas Street, which is a right in, right out, and the access onto Getty Avenue. So the trucks will be able to exit. Passenger cars can enter and exit off of both, and you've already heard testimony to that effect. With respect to emergency vehicles can circulate through the entire site, and the site's been designed to accommodate that. Not only are we fixing the circulation and safety issue on the northern side of the building, the activity along Thomas Street today for the truck loading docks, it essentially, Thomas Street acts as the truck court, for lack of a better term, for those loading docks. So any activity entering and exiting, there's a wide swath of asphalt out there. There's no delineation between the roadway itself and the truck court, where the trucks are backing in. And now with the proposed building, that whole entirety of Thomas Street, aside from the two access points, the two defined access points, will be curbed and will have a defined line with proper sidewalk and a buffer to the building, as you've heard from Mr. Cote. So access-wise, we're significantly improving the safety and the efficiency of all access points to and from the building. Now, getting to the relative difference in trip generation for the site, we are taking this from a much larger warehouse, as it stands today, to a much smaller warehouse. And the much larger warehouse, if it was reoccupied, refurbished, and what have you, would generate essentially double the amount of traffic that we are proposing for this site. So just to give you an idea, I know trucks are usually the concern, and the county did express an interest in the difference in trucks. What we're proposing for this site, during the peak hours, we anticipate that there will be less than one truck every 10 minutes on average in any one direction. So it's not like it's this constant flow of trucks coming in and out of the site. They're spread out, and again, Mr. Cote referenced it. We had observations, videos of the activity along Getty Ave, and it showed that traffic cleared, and there were plenty of opportunities for trucks to exit. And when you're looking at only one every 10 minutes on average, it's not a lot to accommodate within the site. So what we have now is an access point where trucks are exiting, and they can stay there until it's time to exit without impacting flow along Getty Avenue. So trip generation wise, if it was reoccupied, it could generate double the amount of trucks that we're proposing for this particular site. Same thing with passenger cars. We're looking at approximately I think the number is less than one every minute during the peak hours, entering and exiting. So we're talking about not a significant impact to the external roadway network, especially when you consider the fact that it could generate more if it was reoccupied. There was a concern about the school traffic, and we did look at the impacts to the roadway network during the school time. So we did our counts in October of last year when there were COVID restrictions relieved and there was full activity at the school. The actual peaks on the roadway turned out to be 7:30 to 8:30, and 3 to 4 p.m. And the school coincidentally, activity, so the morning activity occurs during that time period. I believe they started around 8:15 or 8:20, and they're done for the day at 3 o'clock. So the street peak hour coincided with what we analyzed as the peak hours in the area. And what we did was we looked at a conservative trip generation estimate for the warehouse itself based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, latest edition. We looked at what the site could generate during the facility peak and put that on top of the street peak. So we looked at a more conservative, higher trip generation than what is actually anticipated during the street peak hour. We looked at that.
Clear, that was asked by, the county asked for clarification, and that information that you just provided satisfied the county's initial concern, correct?
I'm getting to that one in a second. No, that was just us looking at it on a conservative basis for both the city and the county, so that we were making sure that we did not have a significant impact in the immediately local area. What the county did question was, okay, you have a spec building, you don't have a tenant, so how do we know that you're looking at an appropriate trip generation? And going back to the word conservative, we looked at what's called Land Use Code 150, which is warehousing. It's general warehousing. There's several different subcategories for what's considered high cube warehouse, and pretty much every other subcategory generates less trips than what we analyzed for the Land Use Code 150. And same thing with the trucks. I think the only one that had slightly more trucks during the AM peak hour was the cold storage, high cube cold storage, and that was the same amount of trucks that was anticipated during the PM peak hour. So we're still looking at that less than one truck trip every 10 minutes on average in any one direction. So again, we provided that all to the county, presented that. They reviewed it. We provided it to the city to the planning board under separate cover, and you have all that information. Like I said, what we looked at here was positive for the whole area with respect to what was there before, what could be there, and what's proposed with respect to site circulation, site safety, and impacts to the regional network. With that, I'm open for any questions you might have, but I believe you want to hear from the planner first.
And I just want to make one thing clear, because I think it was mentioned about how the intersections were studied in terms of the videos, but you also looked at the levels of service, and the levels of service wouldn't be negatively affected to unacceptable levels, correct?
Yes, and I apologize if I was remiss in not saying that, but when I said there was no significant impact to the surrounding network, it's no significant impact with respect to level of service and delay for any of the approaches at the study intersections.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to present our last witness, Mr. Sean Moronsky of Langen Engineering, our planning expert.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Say your full name for the record, please.
Sean, S-E-A-N, Moronsky, M-O-R-O-N-S-K-I.
And can you briefly describe your educational backgrounds and your licensing?
Yes, I have a master's in urban planning from New York University. I'm a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners since 1999. New Jersey licensed professional planner since the year 2000. My license is current, and I have previously appeared before both the planning and zoning boards in the city of Paterson.
Thank you, Mr. Moronsky, and I accept Mr. Moronsky as an witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Moronsky, can you describe the site from a planning perspective and touch on the variance and the design waivers that are required?
Sure. We are in what's called an industrial transition zone in what the Area 11 redevelopment area. The underlying zoning was I2 heavy industrial zoning. Your planner gave the background information in setting up the application, and Mr. Cote gave an overview of the existing development. As you know, it's a warehouse that can be best characterized with excessive building coverage, certainly compared to the warehouse that's proposed, obsolete and has been in existence for many decades. It has the loading docks on the side along Thomas Street, opposite the residences there. You have a mix of warehouse uses to the north. You have the Conrail railway track to the east, and then to the south and west you have a mix of residential and some commercial uses. So the project in itself, the goal is to redevelop the site consistent with the redevelopment plan, as I'll go through, for a modern warehouse development. As part of our application, we're requesting relief, as has been outlined. And all of this relief we would be requesting under that the benefits of the project, that the overall project benefits, which don't just accrue to the property owner, but to the surrounding area and the community as a whole, furthering the purposes of the redevelopment plan and your master plan, that these benefits would outweigh potential and perceived detriments of the requested relief, which I believe are not substantial in any way. And I will start with the variance identified, which was for maximum impervious coverage. Your redevelopment plan has a maximum of 70%. The existing development, the impervious coverage is 98.6%. Although we are not meeting the 70%, we are proposing it would be 88.8%, which is almost 10% of the site that would have less impervious surface. And I'm going to share Exhibit A5, which is the rendering, which shows the proposed development. And it gives an indication of what that reduction of impervious coverage would mean in terms of the design, as has been discussed by Mr. Cote in particular, that the additional non-impervious area allows for opportunities to provide landscaping around and throughout the site, which is certainly an aesthetic improvement, not only along the perimeters, but also in the parking lot areas, the car parking lot areas as well. And in addition, reducing the impervious coverage, we're also improving the drainage situation consistent with the state's updated stormwater management requirements. So reduced coverage, improved stormwater, and aesthetic enhancement through the increased landscaping, which should be on the site and around the site also. There are 3 waivers identified as part of the relief. The first is what is referred to as the build-to lines, which you have, this is along the frontage where it ranges from 0 to 5 feet in terms of the minimum and maximum setbacks. We're proposing 18.5 feet along the Thomas Street setback, which is actually an improvement over the existing setback right now, which has these loading dock areas, which face the residences across the way, and which the turning movements would be onto Thomas Street themselves. What we're instead replacing it with is a reduced setback, but it also allows for landscaping, a softening of that area for that particular street, allowing for street trees where none exist. So it's an overall aesthetic enhancement. With regards to the setback from Getty Avenue, the build-to lines, we're proposing 119 feet, and that allows for a parking field, car parking field that is able to meet the requirements for parking for this use and for your ordinance. But having the parking laid out in this way, allowing sufficient room for the car parking so that it is separated from the truck parking and the trailer loading areas. This design allows for more efficient circulation, not just in terms of vehicular circulation, but it also creates a safer pedestrian circulation environment where you don't, cars parking in the car parking area, the interaction with truck traffic and other vehicles is minimal or eliminated depending on where you are in the parking lot. The next waiver has to do with lighting. 0.1 foot candles are permitted at the property line, which is a very small amount of lighting, and the understanding is to minimize any potential spillage. We're proposing 1.1 foot candles, and that's near this, pointing to the lower right-hand corner near this office area near Thomas, where there's the driveway for the cars from Thomas Street, and where you're going to have more potential pedestrian circulation as well. So the lighting provides greater visibility and security for pedestrians near an active driveway or near the office area, but it's not at such an intensity where there are concerns about glare to the neighbors. So the safety and security and aesthetic enhancement outweighs any concerns about increasing it greater than 0.1 foot candles. We're also requesting a waiver with regards to the maximum fence and wall height. Mr. Cote talked about the wall, the retaining wall, the parking lot area of the wall, which is due to the difference between Getty Avenue, the street level, and the parking lot. The parking lot is at the same grade as the first floor elevation, and it's really a better design alternative, allowing for an efficient design of the parking area. And in concert along Getty Avenue, you have the 4-foot fence, which is above the wall, and that is intended for safety and security as well, the safety of pedestrians as they traverse along that way, which, by the way, with this design, you're not only pushing back the existing front wall along Getty, you're also creating a more aesthetically pleasing pedestrian walkway where you have street trees and you have a space, a substantial enough setback between the proposed warehouse building and the Getty Avenue street frontage. The requested relief furthers several purposes of zoning. Purpose A, encouraging action that promotes the public health, safety, and general welfare. The project is a modern warehouse development consistent with the Area 11 Neighborhood Redevelopment Plan. Purpose B of the municipal land use law to secure safely from flood, fire, panic, and other natural and man-made disasters. The site design moves operations away from the residents, specifically the loading that is currently designed off of Thomas, and it's toward the rear of the building, off the street as well. And has been previously discussed, the circulation plan, particularly for vehicles, is more efficient in terms of sufficient spacing and sufficient turn radius. Purpose C, to provide adequate light, air, and open space, less impervious and building coverage, increase setbacks, and upgrade landscaping, all support this purpose. Purpose H, to encourage the design of transportation routes which promote the free flow of traffic, discouraging congestion. The circulation pattern had been previously described by Mr. Cote and also Mr. Lothian. And Purpose L, to promote a desirable visual environment, creative design techniques, and good civic design. Mr. Daniel talked about the building in terms of its features, not to necessarily look like a box per se, but to have some design elements more indicative of a modern light industrial and warehouse buildings. We have to address the negative criteria for the relief we're requesting. There's no substantial detriment to the public good. We're improving the existing stormwater management consistent with state regulations. The existing non-conforming impervious coverage going down 10% of the overall lot We're adding over 8,300 square feet of landscaping, including 36 shade trees. On site, in addition, 54 street trees are proposed along Thomas and Getty. We're moving loading from the Thomas Street side of the building, improving the pedestrian experience, not only with the sidewalk, but improved lighting. And as noted by Mr. Lothian in his testimony about the lower number of trips in terms of the size, comparing the size of the current warehouse to what's being proposed. There's no substantial detriment to the intent and purpose of the redevelopment plan or the master plan. This is a permitted use and it's proposed at a scale similar to the warehouses as outlined in the ordinance. Less impervious coverage and less building coverage in the existing non-conforming building. The goals of the redevelopment plan, including goal 1, advancement of the entire neighborhood. The project develops an obsolete site to a modern warehouse development. And goal number 4, to rehabilitate older industrial buildings where appropriate and eliminate blight and neglect throughout the area. The project with the requested relief permits the replacement of an outdated building that cannot effectively accommodate the type of modern warehouse use that's proposed here and eliminates what could become an issue of blight and neglect. So for the reasons that I've outlined, I request that you grant the relief outlined. Thank you.
So that concludes our direct testimony. I do have a very brief summation for the end that I would like to wait until after the questions from the public and from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. I'm going to go to the public session. If anyone wants to ask any question to our last 3 witnesses, which is for Mr. Daniel, the architect, Mr. Lothia, the traffic engineer, and Mr. Marsky, I believe is the architect. I'm sorry, yeah. Planner.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have any question, you may call at 973-321-1579, meaning ID number 711-680-001. Madam Secretary, I believe Mr. Barnes still waiting for his comments.
That's correct. John Burns, are you there, sir? Please hit star 6 on your phone. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Barnes, you have stated your name and address earlier. I believe you can proceed with your comments.
Thank you. Yes, again, I'll just restate it for the record. My name is John Burns with the law firm of Mandelbaum Barrett. We represent the tenant in the building, Mattress Direct Inc. And we just had an objection to put on the record tonight. We believe notice of this application and for the meeting itself wasn't properly provided to Mattress Direct under the statutory mandate or as a matter of administrative due process and basic fairness. So they said we'd like to launch that for the record and leave the board to its business.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Thank you for joining us this evening, and definitely your comments are recorded. Do you have anything else to say before we say bye?
Not this time, thank you.
Mr. Barnes, thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, any other interested party on the line?
We have no callers at this time, but I'm checking anyway.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'm gonna take some questions from the commissioners, and by the time if anyone joins, please let me know.
This is Commissioner Santana.
Yes, Commissioner Santana, you may proceed.
Okay, I have a few questions. Maybe the traffic engineer will be able to answer them.
Yeah, sure. You, what was your question?
On Thomas Avenue, I noticed that it's one way, and I guess outside parking are gonna be eliminated. And what side of the road? Is any improvement or anything that has to be made in that street just to make sure the trucks has enough space to turn and get out of the warehouse or no?
I believe, I think it was A3, the truck circulation plan. It shows the trucks
making the movements into and out of the driveways and down Thomas Street itself, and also accessing onto Getty Ave. So there will be, at the end of the day, like I said, the western or the northwestern side of Thomas will have a more defined curb. There will still be parking permitted on Thomas Street on the southeastern side, and the trucks will be able to circulate into and out of the driveways and into and out of the access to Getty Avenue efficiently.
Okay. When you did the study, do you keep in consideration the hours, the business hours that are going to be active on the warehouse? What are those? What hours, business hours, are going to be established in this warehouse too?
Okay, so as I said during my testimony, what we did was we looked at what's anticipated to be the highest peak for the facility itself, the trip generation for the facility itself, and then we put that traffic onto what the highest volume is on the roadways themselves, which was that 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning and the 3 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Now, the peak for the facility might occur outside of those time periods, but the volumes on the roadways are less during all the other time periods of the day. So the relative impact would be less during those other time periods as well.
Okay. But I'm wondering what are going to be the hours for the warehouse. I don't know. Maybe then you're able to answer.
Sure. We can bring back the representative of the applicant. And I believe it was stated on the record, if not by him, in the review letter. We tried to provide what the hours we believe are most likely to be, but it's going to be determined by the tenant at the end of the day. We couldn't find any restrictions in the redevelopment plan or the ordinance, but if Peter, if you want to just jump in about what we think the hours will be, but recognizing they might be longer or slightly different, just determined by the tenant.
Yeah, no, that's correct, Adam. I mean, we anticipated, 8 to 6 would be the standard operating business hours for any tenant. We obviously peak hours in the morning and potentially late in the day, but, that's obviously subject to who our final tenancy is for the building, ultimately.
And to be clear, any tenant still needs to comply with all state and local noise ordinances. So even though there's no restrictions in the ordinances about hours of operation, they still can't be slamming loading doors in the middle of the night because of noise ordinances. So there are limitations to the different types of operations that can happen during different hours.
Okay, that's why I asked, because I want to make sure, like, no truck coming out at 1 o'clock or 12 at night time, because at the end, this is also a residential area, so I just want to make sure that it's kept in consideration.
Yeah, and the noise ordinances actually change what levels of noises can be done with residents across the street versus non-residents. So we certainly will, any operator tenant is going to need to comply with the noise ordinance, and those are the hours that we think are going to be most likely, but since the industrial industry is always being built on spec, without tenants we can't say the exact specific hours of operation at this time, unfortunately.
Okay, I would like to put on the record, or make this as a condition that, just to make sure that there's not going to be any activity, at least after midnight, I just want to make sure, if you leave it open to the tenants, I'm wondering whether or not they're going to comply with their, those hours too.
Commissioner, if I may, just two thoughts. First, every time a tenant applies for occupancy in this building, they're going to have to apply through the city for a certificate of occupancy. So that'll be one layer of review that each tenant will have to go through before they can occupy this building. And second, I believe Mr. Fayella hinted to it, or actually mentioned it, it would be subject obviously to all of the ordinances that are in effect for the city. Whether it be time restrictions, whether it be noise restrictions, they would obviously be subject to all of that. So given that, along with the application process to actually occupy each one of these units, that's about as good as we can get, pretty much, to address your concerns.
Perfect. Thank you so much for those accurations. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Santana. Any more questions?
This is Commissioner Figueroa.
Yes, Commissioner.
So the way I see it, like this is for the traffic, relative to the traffic study, Mr. Lothian, if you could answer. As you stated, I believe you made a few points as far as that with the current situation with that warehouse, with this proposal, it's actually gonna increase safety measurements as far as the trucks not backing into that street. And also, I was looking over your study, the warehouse trip tables. I could see that the peak hours in the future estimates are actually -47% and -71%, correct?
Correct, based on the square footage of the buildings. So,
Yeah, 'cause that's gonna be less. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. All right, thank you.
no problem.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioner?
This is Commissioner Cleves. Can you hear me?
Yes, Commissioner, please. Yes.
Commissioner Figueroa, hit on one of the questions that I have regarding, the trucks pulling in and backing in. So they all will come into this facility, head on and, loop around and come out head on. So there won't be any need to, block up any traffic, or hold up any traffic. I just wanna make sure that I understood that correctly.
Correct, that movement is eliminated with the proposed warehouse.
Okay, and my second question is there any, limitations that you put on the tenants that want to rent regarding the size of the truck that they, will use at that facility?
Well, we evaluate all the truck turning and circulation based on the largest legal truck in the state. So as long as, they can't have any vehicles that are larger than what we've analyzed for. So anything that's on the site, and if they're smaller trucks, obviously the turning movements will work even better.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Cleves. Any other commissioner, if you have any questions or comments? Commissioners, do you have any question or comments?
I have a comment.
Sorry.
I'm gonna go with, Commissioner Leonzo.
So many years I've been seeing that building there, and it's really look awful. The one that we just got presented is really nice and beautiful. I think this will bring a lot of new people to Paterson to do business in Paterson, and that's the way that the team's supposed to be working with us. So I'm happy that you guys bring this project to the city of Paterson. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Leonzo, for your comments. Yes, Commissioner Santana?
I agree with Commissioner Liranzo. I mean, I think it's I love the image of the building. I just have one more quick question. During construction, are traffic gonna be affected, or all construction is gonna be inside the site?
Mr. Lothian or Mr. Cote, are you guys able to answer that? I do know that there are different ordinances specifically for construction usually. I'm not sure exactly the requirements during for Paterson, but I'll defer to our experts to know to see if they know that answer.
Yeah, the construction will be staged, with respect to the demolition and the different phases of the work. Any work that has to be done along the right of way to improve the curb lines and the sidewalks and all that will be done with traffic protection for the county standards along the roadway. So basically the activities will have to maintain traffic safety measures along the way. So So that's a part of the standard construction. It's a requirement of the county for that particular reason. I don't know if that addresses your question.
Commissioner, does this answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Alright, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Cody. Do any other commissioner want to make comments or state any question? If not, we're gonna go back to Mr. Fowler, and if you can, go with your closing statement.
Thank you very much, and I'll keep this very brief. One thing I've learned throughout my career in land use is you know when to speak, but also know when to shut up. So I'll know when to shut up pretty quickly here. I just want to state that this is a proposed project is for a permitted use. It's exactly what the redevelopment plan calls for, and really it's exactly what redevelopment law was designed for. This is a dilapidated building being replaced with a Class A building that's going to improve the area, improve the safety, and reduce traffic generation. It promotes the goals and objectives of the redevelopment plan and the master plan as explained by our planner. The project has the support of the master redeveloper in the redevelopment area, and so we just respectfully request that the board approve this project for the reasons stated on the record. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Would any commissioner like to make a motion?
Commissioner Figueroa would like to introduce a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Figueroa. I second.
Okay, we have to read it first.
Yes.
Okay, for the applicant Thor, 297 Getty Avenue LLC, 25 West 39th Street, second floor, New York, New York, 10018. Property located at 217-297 Getty Avenue, Block 6701, Lot 2. Owner Getty Industries LLC, located at 31-10 37th Avenue, Suite 500, Long Island City, New York, 11101. I move that the board attorney prepare a resolution granting the following: site plan approval, bulk variance and design waivers and exceptions as noted in the plan. Do you need me to read them out, Mr. Acquaviva?
No, that's not necessary, Future.
Okay. City engineer, city traffic engineer, Passaic County Planning Board, as Getty Avenue is a county road, HEP Soil Conservation District, and the Passaic Valley Sewer Commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Figueroa, for motion for approval, and was seconded by Commissioner Liranzo. Roll call, please. Madam Secretary.
Yes, Chairman.
You may roll call.
Commissioners, excuse me, Commissioner Cleaves.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Liranzo.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Santana.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Amar.
Yes.
Commissioner Figueroa.
Yes.
And Chairman Udine.
Yes.
This
Thank
has
you,
been
Commissioner.
granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night. Madam Secretary, is there any other business this evening?
We have no further business unless Mr. Deutsch would like to explain.
Mr. Deutsch. Mr. Deutsch, do we have anything else?
Any recommendations?
Are you looking for jobs for us?
Oh, you're muted.
Me?
No, Mr. Deutsch.
We have no further business. Good evening, everyone.
Good
Okay.
evening.
Motion to close, Commissioner. We need a motion to close.
I make a motion to close.
I
Yes, definitely. Have a wonderful night, everyone. See you.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Night.